My husband called CPS on me and told them I was dangerous postpartum. But I had a camera recording when he admitted he was building a case to take my baby. Before we start, if you like full Reddit-style stories with real twists and receipts, hit like, tell us whose side you're on in the comments, and subscribe. We're pushing for our first 1,000 subscribers, and it genuinely helps. I'm 28 F. My husband, Mark, is 31 M. We've been together 6 years, married for 3, and we have a baby girl, Mila, who was born 9 months ago. This story isn't about me being emotional after birth. It's about what happens when someone uses your weakest moment like a weapon, then acts shocked when you stop playing nice. I had an emergency C-section after a labor that went sideways fast. Mila's heart rate dipped, doctors moved quickly, and 1 minute I was trying to breathe through contractions. The next I was staring at bright surgical lights while someone told me, "We need to move now." Mila cried, I cried. Mark looked like he was going to faint. I remember thinking, okay, we're safe, we're a team. I was wrong. The first 2 weeks at home were pure survival. I was bleeding, sore, exhausted, and leaking milk while trying to learn a brand new human's language. Mila slept in broken chunks. I slept in broken chunks. Mark went back to work quickly and kept saying he was slammed. At first, he was helpful in small, performative ways. He'd take photos of Mila sleeping and post them with captions like, "Girl Dad Life," and "My Whole World." And people would comment hearts and tell me how lucky I was. But behind the scenes, he started doing this thing where he talked about me like I was a problem he had to manage. If I cried from exhaustion, he'd sigh and say, "You're spiraling again." If I asked him to wash bottles because my incision felt like it was tearing, he'd say, "You're being dramatic." If I asked him to hold Mila so I could shower, he'd say, "I will, but you need to calm down first." And he said it with that calm, reasonable tone that makes you sound crazy if you argue back. I tried to explain that postpartum recovery is intense, that I wasn't unstable. I was healing from surgery and running on no sleep. Mark would nod like he understood, then turn around and make jokes about me to other people. The first time he did it in front of someone, I didn't even realize what was happening until it was too late. His mom came over with a casserole around 2 weeks postpartum. I was in a huge t-shirt and mesh underwear, hair greasy, sweating through my bra, holding my newborn like my arms were the only thing keeping her alive. His mom asked, "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Before I could answer, Mark chuckled and said, "She's emotional, you know, hormones." His mom laughed like it was adorable. Oh, new moms get a little dramatic. And Mark smiled like he just landed a joke. Something in my stomach dropped, not because his mom said it, because of how easily Mark let her. After that, the jokes spread. In group chats with his friends, "Baby's great, wife's a little unhinged lol." To his brother on the phone, "She's Googling everything, it's exhausting." To his coworkers, "I'm doing double duty at home, you know how it is." The part that messed with my head is that he wasn't completely lying. I was struggling. Anyone would struggle. But he didn't frame it as "my wife needs support." He framed it like, "My wife is unstable." And postpartum is the worst time to be told that. Because you're already questioning yourself. You forget things, you cry, you feel numb, you feel terrified, your body hurts, your brain is fog, and your baby depends on you for everything. So I tried to be better. I tried to speak calmly. I tried to smile more. I tried not to cry in front of him. I tried to look put together even when my stitches burned. But the more I tried, the more he escalated. He started provoking me on purpose. He'd wait until Mila was screaming, and I hadn't slept, and then pick that exact moment to bring up something stressful. "You didn't sanitize the pump parts again. Did you forget to pay the electric bill? Are you sure you're safe to hold her like that? One night, I finally got Mila to sleep on my chest around 5 a.m. I was sitting upright on the couch, barely holding my eyes open. Mark walked in, turned on the overhead light and said, "You can't sleep like that. That's unsafe." I blinked, confused. I'm sitting up, I'm holding her. He leaned over me, voice sharp but controlled. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're not thinking clearly. You're a danger when you're tired." A danger. That word hit me like ice water. I whispered, "Don't say that." Mark sighed dramatically like I'd proven his point. "See, look how reactive you are." Mila startled awake and started crying. I felt panic surge through me, not because of the baby, but because of the way Mark said danger, like he was saving it for later. That morning after he left for work, I sat on the couch shaking, and the thought I didn't want to have finally formed clearly. He's trying to build a story. At first I told myself I was being paranoid, that Mark was just stressed, that I was exhausted, that postpartum was messing with my head. But then I started noticing patterns. He used the same phrases over and over: spiraling, reactive, danger. He got calmer when I got upset, like it fueled him. He escalated when someone else was around, like he wanted an audience. And then I saw the first piece of proof. A tiny red light on his laptop camera. Mark works in marketing. He has this desk set up in the living room with a laptop, a mic, and a little ring light because he used to film content. The desk was always his territory. I didn't touch it. One afternoon, I walked past to grab a bottle and noticed the laptop camera light was on. I paused. The screen was open to a recording app, not a Zoom call, a recording, and in the corner the file name was something like Thursday Meltdown 1. My stomach dropped. I didn't click anything. I didn't stop the recording. I just stood there staring because my brain couldn't accept it. Then I heard Mark's key in the door. I slammed the laptop shut, picked up Mila, and forced my face neutral as he walked in smiling. "Hey, how are my girls?" I said fine, like my throat wasn't closing. That night while Mark slept, I checked his laptop. Yes, I snooped, and I don't feel bad about it. I opened the folder connected to the recording app. There were dozens of videos. Dozens. The titles made my blood run cold. Crying again, yelling too, anxious episode, unsafe sleeping, can't handle baby, talked about voices. I have never heard voices. I have never said I hear voices. I have never even joked about hearing voices. I clicked one. It was me on the couch, hair a mess, holding Mila while crying quietly. The baby was crying too. Then Mark's voice from off camera, calm and deliberate. "Tell the camera what's wrong." I watched myself look up confused. "What?" Mark's voice, "Just explain, you've been saying scary things." Me, I didn't. Mark, stop. "Mark, you said you're afraid you might hurt her. That's not normal." My entire body went cold. Because I never said that. I said one time at 3 a.m., "I'm so tired I'm scared I'll drop her." That's not a confession. That's a normal exhausted mom fear. But Mark was turning it into, "I'm afraid I'll hurt her." He was reframing my words, leading me, recording my reaction, collecting clips. I closed the laptop and sat there shaking, feeling like my marriage had turned into a trap. The next day, Mark was extra sweet. He made dinner. He rubbed my shoulders. He told me I looked better today. Like he was proud. That's when I realized something worse than the recordings. He didn't just think I was unstable. He needed me to look unstable. So I stopped reacting. I didn't confront him. I didn't accuse him. I didn't cry in front of him anymore. I went quiet, calm, neutral. and I started building my own receipts. I did 3 things immediately. First, I started a paper log. Dates, times, what he said, who was there. I hid it in the closet inside a diaper box. Second, I told my friend Nina, 29F. She's not dramatic, she's not a gossip. She's the kind of person who's calm in emergencies. I invited her over while Mark was at work, showed her the folder, and watched her face go white as she watched 2 clips. "That's not normal," she said. "That's calculated." Hearing someone else say, it made me feel sane again. Third, I bought a small indoor security camera, the kind you can mount on a shelf. I had it shipped to Nina's place so Mark wouldn't see a package. I set it up in the living room, angled to see the couch and the desk. I turned off the indicator light. I set it to auto-upload to the cloud. If Mark wanted to record me, fine. But he wasn't going to be the only one recording. It took less than a week for the camera to catch what I needed. Mark came home, went straight to the desk, opened his laptop, glanced around the living room like he was checking angles, and adjusted the laptop camera slightly. Then he muttered, "Perfect. Perfect." Another day, Mila was fussy and I'd been walking her around the living room for an hour. Mark came in, saw me bouncing her, and said loudly, like he wanted it recorded, "Okay, you need to calm down." I said evenly, "I'm calm, she's just crying." Mark stepped closer, voice still loud, "You're shaking, you're scaring her." I looked at him and felt that cold focus again. This was performance. I said, "Please stop talking to me like that." Mark leaned in, smiling through his teeth, and whispered so quietly it was almost chilling, "Give it time, you'll crack." Then he stepped back and raised his voice again, for the imaginary audience. "I'm going to take her, you need a break." He took Mila and walked toward the desk, and I watched him angle the laptop camera toward my face while holding our baby. Then he said softly, "Tell them you're okay. Tell them." That slip was everything. And my camera caught it. I didn't do anything right away. I didn't want him to know I knew. I needed him to keep talking. Over the next 2 weeks, Mark escalated. He started mentioning therapy, but not in a supportive way, in a "you need help" way. He started texting his mom about me. I saw her messages pop up on his phone while he forgot to turn the screen away. He said things like, "If you don't get better, I'll have to do what's best for Mila." He used "best for Mila" like a weapon. Then he got sloppy. It was a Saturday. Nina had come by with coffee and sat with me while I fed Mila. Mark acted like the perfect husband, jokes, smiles. "We're doing great." He offered Nina snacks. He kissed the baby's head for show. The moment Nina left, Mark's face changed. He shut the door and said, "So, you're recruiting allies now." I blinked. "What?" He walked into the living room, stood near the desk, and lowered his voice like he was finally telling the truth. "You think I don't know what you're doing? Acting calm, playing normal, talking to people." I said, "I'm allowed to have a friend." Mark smiled slowly. "Sure, it's just, when this goes to court it'll be interesting." My heart slammed. "Court?" He shrugged like it was casual. "I've been documenting everything. If you spiral again, I'm ready." I felt ice spread through my veins. Then he said the part that sealed it. "I talked to a lawyer. They said the key is to show a pattern, instability, unpredictability, risk." Pattern? Then he glanced at the desk, at his laptop camera, and leaned closer. "I've been playing the long game." My camera caught every word. That night, after he fell asleep, I pulled up the footage and watched it 3 times, just to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Then I backed it up in multiple places. I sent it to Nina. I wrote it down in my log, and I cried quietly, not because I was powerless, but because I finally understood the truth. My husband was trying to take my baby from me. The next morning, I called a family law attorney. I didn't sound dramatic. I sounded calm. I'm postpartum. My husband has been secretly recording me. He's telling people I'm unstable. He admitted he's building a case for court. I have footage. The lawyer's voice went serious. She told me to keep doing exactly what I was doing. Document, stay calm. Don't confront him directly, and prepare a safety plan. She also told me something that stuck. In cases like this, the person who controls the narrative first can do a lot of damage. You need to get ahead of it. I didn't want a war, but Mark already started one. 2 days later, his mom texted me. Mark says you've been struggling. I'm coming over to help with the baby. I stared at the message and felt dread crawl up my spine. I replied politely, "We're okay today, thank you." She responded, "Please don't be defensive, we're worried." Defensive, another label. That evening Mark came home and said, "My mom's concerned about you." I asked calmly, "Why did you tell her I'm unstable?" He smirked. "I didn't say unstable, I said you're having a hard time." Then he glanced toward the desk again and said, "Everyone wants what's best for Mila." The next afternoon, a social worker called me. She introduced herself and said she was following up on a report about postpartum mental health concerns, an infant safety risk. My body went cold. Mark had done it. He called CPS. I agreed to a visit, hung up, and immediately called my lawyer. My lawyer didn't panic. She said, "This happens. We're going to handle it. Keep everything clean, have medical records ready, have your postpartum screening paperwork ready, and do not get emotional with them." So I did exactly that. I cleaned like my life depended on it. I laid out Mila's pediatrician records. I pulled my postpartum screening paperwork from my OB showing I was oriented, coherent, and seeking support responsibly. I had bottles clean, diapers stocked, safe sleep set up clearly. I asked Nina to be there as a witness. Mark came home early wearing his concerned father face. When the social worker arrived, Mark offered her water. He spoke softly. He held Mila gently. He looked like a commercial. The social worker asked me questions. I answered calmly. Then she asked Mark what his concerns were. And Mark couldn't resist being theatrical. He sighed dramatically and said, "She gets irrational. She cries, then she's fine, then she's crying again. She forgets things. She keeps insisting I'm recording her." I looked at the social worker and said, "He is recording me." Mark laughed like I'd told a joke. "See." I slid a printed screenshot across the table, file names from his laptop folder. Nina had photographed them. The social worker's expression changed immediately. Mark's smile froze. I said evenly, "He has been recording me without my consent and labeling the clips like I'm having episodes. He has told people I'm dangerous, and he told me he's playing a long game to build a case for court." Mark snapped, "That's not what I said." Nina spoke up calmly, "We have video of him saying it." Silence. Mark tried to recover. "This is exactly what I mean. She's paranoid. She's getting people involved." The social worker didn't look amused. She looked concerned about him. She asked Mark directly, "Are you recording your wife?" Mark started talking fast. "I record for work. Sometimes I record because I'm scared. I need documentation." The social worker asked, "Documentation of what?" Mark hesitated. That hesitation said everything. After the visit, the social worker pulled me aside and said she saw no safety concern from me. She said the report seemed connected to conflict between parents and would be documented as such. She made notes about the recordings. The CPS case was later closed as unfounded. The moment the social worker left, Mark's mask dropped. He hissed, "What the hell was that?" I said quietly, "You called CPS on me." Mark's eyes flashed. "I did what I had to do. I asked to win." He stepped closer, then glanced toward the desk like he remembered there might be cameras. Then he lowered his voice and said the line that told me exactly who he was. "You're ruining my case." My case. I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I walked into the bedroom, locked the door, and held my baby while my hands shook. That night Nina stayed over. The next morning, while Mark was out getting coffee, Nina and I packed essentials, documents, baby supplies, my log, and backups of the footage. I left Mark a note. "Only communicate through my lawyer." Then I left. I didn't take everything. I took what mattered. I took my baby. I took my proof. I took my sanity. Over the next month, we went to court for temporary orders. Mark filed paperwork claiming I was unstable. He tried to use his recordings as evidence. But in court, recordings don't just exist, they get examined. And the videos showed him provoking, leading, framing, performing. They showed him saying, "Tell the camera." They showed him saying, "Give it time, you'll crack." They showed him admitting long game, pattern, case. His lawyer tried to spin it as concern. The judge asked why, if Mark was concerned, he didn't encourage support and treatment instead of secretly recording and filing a CPS report. Mark couldn't answer that without admitting the truth. The judge granted me temporary primary custody and ordered Mark's visits supervised until further review. When I walked out of the courthouse holding Mila's carrier, my knees almost gave out. Not because I won, because I survived something I didn't know could happen in a marriage. Mark tried to salvage his image afterward. He told friends I kidnapped Mila. He told family I was unstable. He posted vague stuff about men being silenced. But the difference is, I wasn't scared of his narrative anymore. Because I had receipts. And because the people who mattered, the judge, CPS, my doctors, saw the truth. Here's the part that still gets me. Once I wasn't living under Mark's constant provocation, my mind got quieter. I still had postpartum anxiety. I still had hard days. But I wasn't being pushed toward the edge every day by someone who needed me to fall. Mark wanted to be the hero of a story where his wife went crazy, and he saved the baby. Instead, he became the villain in a story where he tried to manufacture a case, and got caught on camera. So let me ask you, if you were in my position, would you have left the moment you found the recordings? Or would you have tried to talk it out first? Thanks for watching. If you want more full Reddit-style stories with twists, proof, and consequences, hit like, drop your verdict in the comments, and subscribe, because we're still pushing for our first 1,000 subscribers.